Get your mic. Whoa.
Hello, can you hear me? Thank you all for being here. I'm Bill Lambrecht. I am a partner at New Big Books. We published Dennis Doyle's book. I'm also a local guy. We had boats on J-Dock and H-Dock for many, many years. I just sold my Albany 28 last year, so I'm very happy to be here. Dennis Doyle was the columnist for Bay Weekly newspaper that my family owned for many years. Anything at all about fishing, Dennis knows, and not just trolling, which is very popular out here. Dennis can tell you anything about any fish that swims, not just in the Chesapeake Bay, but in any tributary, any farm pond around here, and how to catch them. We were so happy to be able to publish his book, as you see, How to Catch Fish, which somebody like me needs. I was always what I call the flummoxed fisherman. And as recently as this fall, I've turned to fly fishing recently. I was having trouble catching any fish, and so I called Dennis. And I said, Dennis, you know, the fish are just whipping me all the time. I don't know what to do. Dennis said, well, what size fly are you using? So I told him, and he said, well, you need a bigger fly for these rockfish out here. So I went to a clouser about yay big, and the first time I fished, I caught a 25-inch and two 23. Well, I threw it back. I kept one, and two 23-inch rockfish. If you don't believe it, I've got pictures. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dennis Doyle, the author, columnist, and a good guy.
Thank you, Bill. Well, I've had a good time on the day. I've been advised that I should start this lesson by giving you my reason for fishing. There is hardly any human activity more restorative, calming, comforting, and just plain relaxing than a day on the water attempting to convince a fish to bite your line. Fishing promises quiet contemplation, fine scenery, and communion with nature with the outside chance of spreading a hearty meal. It is not a particularly strenuous sport, other than casting out your bait or lure. Most of the time and attention is spent waiting for the fish to decide whether or not to eat it. That pretty much puts any pressure for success directly in the hands of the fish, leaving free your mind to wander. Search the word fishing online and you'll get 500 million hits. The next most popular sport, golfing, scores barely 10% of that number. Not bad for a game that simply requires, at its most basic level, a pole, a hook, a little bit of line, and a good-looking piece of water. Children take to fishing like few other activities, which is proof positive of its basically pure and simple nature. Older men revel in its intricacies and total absorption of the self. I have devoted a great portion of my life to chasing fish and have never regretted a single moment. In fact, I'm a firm believer in the adage, you can never fish too much It just can't be done. Anyway, after 50 years or so, I'm slowing down a bit, and we published this book. And essentially, it's really not about how to catch a fish. It's a collection of essays on how I caught a particular fish and the lessons I learned doing that, and the experience of conquering an animal with a brain the size of a pea. Anyway, I'm going to start off calendar-wise. We'll talk about the fish that are available earliest, and we'll chase them down in that manner. The best cold water fish that you can chase is the pickerel. It's a long, slender fish, iridescent green in color. It's got a mouthful of teeth. They're not cutting teeth, they're holding teeth. They're like needles. So they're not going to cut your line, although they may in extreme conditions cut your line. But generally speaking, you can use a 10-pound monofilament. Will be fine for landing most pickerel. They don't, it's very difficult for them to saw through them. They're difficult to handle. You want a net because they don't have scales. They're covered with slime. Slime coating, not particularly disgusting, but you can't get a hold of them. You're going to need a net, and you have to handle them carefully. If you're going to pick them up with a rag, make sure the rag is wet, because the mucus coating on their bodies is their protection against various things. And if you knock that off, they can get sick. They're a delicious fish if you're patient enough to pick through the bones, because they've got lots and lots of bones. And they're free flow. A lot of the bones are free floating, so it's not as if you can do any sort of fillet technique that's going to avoid the loss of some of the flesh. Although you can, you lose a great deal of it. If you if you fillet a pickerel, you're going to lose over half the weight of the fish. So they're generally released. Although people who do love them claim that the best way to eat pickerel is to steam them, pull the skin off them, and then go through the flesh with your fingers and extract all the meat from the pin bones and make fish cakes out of them, or fish balls. They are delicious. It's a white, firm, sweet flesh. They are an ambush predator. They're available throughout the tributaries of the bay, up to the headwaters. They can't tolerate a lot of salt, so you won't find them anywhere in the mainland. Sometimes they venture out into the river mouths, but not often. They'll be in the estuaries. And they're very hard-fighting fish. They'll eat almost anything. They'll eat snakes. They'll eat ducks. They'll eat frogs. And they're very aggressive. And the colder it is, the more active they are, strangely enough. So it's a fish that's available all during the coldest months of winter. February is one of those better months. When it starts to warm up a little bit, they usually retreat into densely covered areas of the creeks and the tributaries. They love frogs, and you can catch them on any kind of baits that you normally throw for freshwater bass, frog baits, especially like topwater, and they jump a lot. So it's a good fish. And since they're so hard to clean, everybody lets them go, and there's always a lot of them. The same time that happens is the beginning of the spawning season for some of the more numerous fish in the bay. That's yellow perch and white perch. Yellow perch are on the decline, mostly because they spawn up in the tributaries, and they're very sensitive to runoff from development, and it's difficult to find an area where their eggs don't get smothered and spilled. So for the time being, it's tough to find yellow perch. Plus, the commercials like them a lot. They're very popular in the Midwest. So we get what's left when the commercials pull the nets out of the water. Yellows love a live minnow under a bobber. The reason we use a bobber is to keep it on vegetation. Casting it up, switching it back, casting it up, switching it back. Some people just cast it up and let it sit. That works too, but you never know what's going on out there. Because if you're not paying attention to it all the time, somebody's going to steal your bait, you don't know it. Or bite it in half. But they do love a minnow on a bobber. They'll also take bloodworms, garden worms, trout worms. They call them butter worms and things like that. The places that sell bait, if they're offering bait for trout, they'll work for yellow perch as well. Strangely enough, butterworms are very popular. I don't know where they find them. Right after the yellows peak in next month. This month. They'll peak in March. And they'll be available, you'll run into them from time to time all the way into June, but generally speaking, the vast majority will be done this month. Which starts up the white perch. Same profile as they're coming out of the lower areas of the estuaries and going up to the native waters to spawn. They spawn in fresh water, and they live in brackish water. And their favorite foods are starting early. Usually, small minnows work the best. Again, small minnows work the best, followed by grass shrimp. They love grass shrimp. And strangely enough, when you do find a particular bait that they want, like a worm, almost all of them will take that bait to the exclusion of everything else. You can have one guy catching fish after fish after fish on grass shrimp, and they will not look at anything else. So be ready for that. The rule of thumb is they want exactly which bait you don't have. So the white perch are there, and after the whites, which takes us into April. After the whites, the finger shad are going to show up. You probably get them here. Again, they live offshore in salt water, and they spawn in fresh water. He's running up the estuaries to spawn. They will stage, as will the yellows and the whites, they'll stage in the deeper areas, bigger areas of the estuaries, waiting for the right temperature, which is impossible to guess. Usually it's somewhere in the high 50s. But the thing is if you got a sunny day, it could be high 50s anywhere. And you probably won't know it. So, I think the best time to fish for all of these is whenever you can. Just take your chances. Because the first fish of the year are also the most delicious. And they're cold water fish, gives them firm flavor, gives them firm flesh, sweet flavor. both of them are the best tasting fish in the bay, available in the bay. The whites particularly. The yellows, depending on where they're hanging out. The yellows prefer a lot of underwater vegetation, and it's hard to find anymore. But the whites, they'll go anywhere. The yellows, when they spawn, it's an unusual spawn. Their roe is in a long accordion envelope with pockets in it, and they'll spew that out, and the plan is for that to hang up on some kind of debris in the water, and it'll keep it there with the current of the running water going through there until they hatch out, and then they're fine. But if it gets on the bottom, it'll be okay until the silt hits it. And once the silt covers it, they suffocate. Now the whites are just, they just spew free, kind of like a straight path. And one of the reasons why there's so many white perch is they are fertile the first year, at the end of the first year, and they can spawn 2 or 3 times after that every year. They almost always have eggs in them. They're always in some form of reproduction. A good thing, because we take a lot of them. We take an awful lot of them. And like I said, they are delicious. They're selling in the markets right now for $1.50 a pound, which is, it frightens me. But you've got to realize that that's a whole fish, and you're not going to get a lot of fish out of that. But it doesn't take many. 3 fish is plenty for one person. That's 6 fillets. The only way in my mind that you want to cook these fish is that you clean them up, cut them into bite-sized pieces, dip them in egg yolk and milk, and roll them in panko, Japanese breadcrumbs, or regular breadcrumbs, but Japanese breadcrumbs for some reason. Roll them, fry them in hot peanut oil until they're brown, medium brown, and there's nothing like them. They're really good. And at $1.50 a pound, it probably costs $20 a pound by the time you get the final product. So they're not cheap. Good thing. Okay, so we've got the first couple of months, we've got pickerel, yellow perch, white perch, and the shad. Now the shad are very bony fish. They're incredibly good for bait, but you can't keep them anymore because they have the areas where they spawn is subject to pollution, and so their numbers are consistently falling. But if you can count, Virginia, you can keep them. If you can come up with any of these fish, they make great bait, and they are virtually inedible because they've got even more bones than pickerel. But they're very exciting to catch. They jump a lot. They take shad darts. They don't need bait on them. Just twitch them across, let them dance in the current of the creeks, rivers. On a good day when they're running, they're coming up into the rivers, 15 to 20 fish is not an unusual score. But you're not going to do that every day. And in order to do that, you got to go after them almost every day until you find out. When you look into an arrival at the same time as them, as they are. Okay, pickerel. and white perch and yellow perch, starting in June, will start to take artificials. And the reason for that is debatable, but generally speaking, fish in water, fish in water from 55 degrees and colder find their food through their sense of smell or taste. Because there's nowhere to smell things. But they're not going to actively seek food by the smell or by taste until the temperatures get above that. And then they'll start to strike by what they see. If they see something that looks edible, they'll hit it. But that doesn't start until about 55 is the more reliable. Little spinner baits, little spoons, a small Tony, 13 Tony set of spoons. They like those. Anything that's flashing and can fit in their mouth, they'll eat. You're working with shallow waters. Moving it medium fast and irregular. Don't do the same thing all the time. A lot of people will go out and make the same motion and think there's no fish there, but if they moved it just a little bit different, the fish would start eating it. So, you should have it. Yeah. Pickerel, you'll take a spinnerbait, you'll take a larger spinnerbait, they'll take a little crankbait, which is simply a plug that looks like a minnow. Wheels in the water, and soft-bodied jigs, very good for pickerel and for yellow perch and white perch when they're small enough, when the lure is small enough. Colors, whatever you don't have is what you want. Okay. And then we start heading into June. Now this year well, yeah. There are a lot of fish that disappeared. A lot of people know where they went, but nobody's saying. The sporting organizations have been screaming at DNR to cut back on the harvest for years, starting at least 6-7 years ago. And their answer was, well, we'll wait and see until we get an accurate count. Well, good luck with that. Anyway, they finally started to realize that they were going to have to reduce the sport fishing take. Because legally or politically, they cannot reduce the share of the fish that the commercial fishermen get. Any kind of conservative efforts have to be borne by recreational anglers. Now, there are about 300 commercial fishermen that depend on rockfish. There are 300,000 sport fishermen. That doesn't seem like a fair division to me, but they get their 2 million pounds every spring, and we don't. Okay? As a matter of fact, for years, there's not enough of a share for recreational fishermen to catch one fish a year. But they continue to give large concessions to 300 commercial anglers. It's a 17th century industry. So it is what it is. Until they start electing people based on that, the chances of it change are not good. Anyway, they get the lion's share of yellow perch, white perch, and rockfish. We get the rest. moving it again this year, one fish, 18 to 20 inches, is it?
Turn around, it's behind you.
Oh, okay. What's the next page? Next page?
That's all.
Here.
That's all I got.
Oh, one fish per person, 28 to 31 inches.
That's the ocean.
Oh, it is ocean.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. We're supposed to go to, let me catch the book here.
Sorry.
This isn't my fault, my wife told me to look at it.
19 to 24.
19 to 24, that's starting, yes, I believe that's right, for the year. These books are available from BNI, they're probably not most of the sporting goods stores. They just released them, actually. They've got a special page for striped bass, and they move it every year. They get ever more difficult to find. No. I think you're right, it was 18 to 24 inches, one fish. The season is not open until May. You have to use circle hooks anytime you use a lead bait. The catch and release, it was originally thought the catch and release was about a 3% mortality rate. And then over the years when they, that was based on the assumption that you're using a fly or small spinnerbait or artificial lure, but a lot of people couldn't catch them on spinnerbaits and flies, and they would resort to live bait. The problem with live bait is fish almost always swallows the bait. And when it swallows the bait, if you've got a standard J hook, you're going to deep hook 60 to 70% of the fish, and when you get deep hooked, the hook will pierce an organ inside the fish, in which case they're going to die within 2 hours. And over the years, more and more people were going to live bait. The charter boats, it was hard to get somebody to stop fishing when they put 2 rockfish in their cooler, and have paid $200 or so. So they keep fishing, and they let them go, but the mortality rate continued to get higher and higher. We killed too many fish, and they wouldn't stop. They wouldn't cut back. We pleaded with them, and they had great excuses, but it had something to do with the money involved. And they never cut back on them until now when they're facing disaster. I mean, the populations of the striped bass are the lowest they've ever been. Lower than they were in '95 when they had a strategies have to be put in place, and the right people have to pay attention to them, because right now there's a fairly significant portion of recreational fishermen who are not paying attention to the regulations. They're keeping everything they get. Okay, so where are we? The most efficient way to catch rockfish is chumming. It's a great way, but the thing is with the limits the way they are, it doesn't make any sense to chum to catch fish, because it takes you about an hour to get set up. It costs about $40, $50 to get the right baits and chum out of the water, and then unless you've got 6 people on your boat, it's just too outrageously expensive to try. The next best way to do it is jigging with soft-bodied jigs. What do you call it? Pardon me? Oh, the little shad. Sassy shads, we use them for trolling right now, but they'll work with a jig head, with a lead jig head. Chartreuse is the best color. White comes in second. And then there are the slimmer baits. I've got a cramp in my brain right now. I mean, it's been the most popular bait for 20 years, but I can't think of its name. Bass Candy Delights is one of the titles in it, but I can't think of the more popular one. Anyway, you'll see them everywhere, because most of them are available now are clones. It's a soft plastic bait, looks like a minnow, various sizes. Best overall size can be 5-incher. Some of them have tails that flop, and some of them don't. Now, the ones that don't mistake the fact that they're a straight tail with no kind of obstruction at the end of it that makes them flop. Don't make the mistake that they don't move. They do. When you move them through the water, they quiver. And sometimes that quivering motion is just what sets the fish up. Sometimes they want that. Sometimes they want to really flop. Because the flop makes more noise in the water than the fish. That's the most efficient way to catch them. Plugs are the next most efficient way. Hard-bodied artificial baits. They're a lot of fun to throw. You can throw them in open water if you've marked schools of fish. The best weights are, if you're going down deep in 20, 30 feet of water, you're going to need an ounce, ounce and a half, 2 ounces. The best size head. If you're in shallower water or you see the fish are breaking on top, 3/4 ounce is plenty. Half ounce, 3/4 ounce is plenty. If you're in a boat and approaching breaking fish, do not go into the fish. You'll put them down or you'll split the school. Stay out, let the wind or the current drift you in. Stay on the edge of the current. The bigger fish are going to be on the outside. It's the little ones that you can see that are going to be swimming around there. And at the same time, the bigger fish are going to be down deep because they have to expend less energy to eat the injured fish that drift down to them, and they're smart. So they'll just laze around down there and pick up the pieces, and usually those fish will be bigger, sometimes by a great deal. Bigger than the fish that are on top of that.
On the previous slide, you showed several lures. Can you explain what we're looking at here?
Sure. Okay. These are top water on the left. This is called dressing. It's just hair or feathers on the tail end of the hook. Dance around, give it a little bit extra action. This is a chug bug. This is a popping minnow. I can't remember this guy's name, but they haven't made it for 10 years, so it doesn't really matter. This is a spook, Zara spook, and this is also a spook. They all require a different hand techniques. The spooks, you crank them and twitch them, and that makes the lure go like this, which is a trigger for a predator fish. The top one is when you give it a jerk, it's going to pop. You'll hear it make that gurgling noise. And again, it's a trigger for a fish. Very effective way to catch it. They're most effective first thing in the morning, last thing in the afternoon. Other than that, if a fish is actively feeding and disturbing the surface, they'll work. And other than that, it's an early or late deal. It's also one of the most fun ways to catch fish there is. If you get addicted to that, you won't do anything else. If you know what a 20-pounder looks like when it misses a bait, it'll set your heart racing like nothing else. They really work well. Over here, this is a crankbait. This wiggles underwater like a fish that's hurt. This is a popper. That's called a, my brain is going to mush. A woman designed this in Pennsylvania. What the hell is the name of that? I'll think of it. Anyway, this is a chug bug. Black is a great color. They're hard to find. People like the bright and shiny ones better. But black is a great color to use on a off-color day because the fish can see it easier. When they're looking up, they see a definite silhouette with that, even with bright sunlight. This is the soft-bodied bait I was talking about. Oh, I know what this is. This is called a smack it. This one is the Smack It Junior, 3/4 of an ounce, great lure. For a while, it was the only thing that rockfish would hit for about 5 or 6 years, but they're getting kind of used to it now. This is a metal jig. When they're down on the bottom, and the little ones are up on top, making a lot of noise, you drop that down and just twitch it, drift through the fish. You'd be surprised how many big fish you'll catch, as well as small ones. And this is a bucktail jig, probably the most traditional bait on the board, on the bay. It's been in use since the beginning of time. It still catches fish as good or better than anything. White, chartreuse, yellow, they all work. What's really important is the action that you impart to the bait. Sometimes they want to bounce slowly off the bottom. Sometimes they want to skip across the top. You've got to try everything you can think of before you give up, because they're fickle. They're very, very fickle. One of the more effective ways of fishing these poppers is to cast it out as far as you can, hold your rod up high, and crank it just as fast as you can so it skips across the top. It looks like a panicked fish trying to escape. Everything goes after it. It's a very reliable way. If nothing else works, or even while something else is working, try that retrieve. Sometimes it'll make big fish go crazy. The propellers here are a different kind of fish, different kind of bait. I think that there's another screen in here that has those. There it is. They're just, on still days, those propellers make a sound that emulates a shoal of fish skipping across the top of the water. Sounds just like it. It could be You'll be amazed at how that relates. It will take a school of fish that is not interested and make them a bunch of piranha. It really, really can make a difference, particularly on still days, in the evenings, in the early mornings. And when I mean early mornings, I mean before the sun comes up. The bite's good for about 2 hours. They'll hit for about 2 hours, and then I don't know when they go deep. Rockfish and most predatory fish are sunlight sensitive. Once it gets bright, they want to go deep. It's something they learned as little fingerlings. As soon as it gets sunny out, the osprey can find them, and they better get down where they're safe. So it's an instinctive thing. When that sun comes up, they're going to go deep, which is one of the reasons why it's so difficult to catch fish on the bay with a fly rod. If you're going to use a fly rod, you're never going to get a suntan. Because the best times to fish are very early, very late, and all night long. A rockfish will find a black fly this big in 20 feet of water on a moonless night. Incredibly effective bait. And the bay at night is a different place altogether. It's dead calm, quiet, and there's nobody around, which is a good thing, and it kind of makes you a little nervous. But you can catch fish on a fly rod near the surface, just under the surface, all the time, depending on what kind of tidal flow you get and the structure you're fishing over. But I've fished exclusively with a fly rod for years, and never got a suntan. The fish, well, for one thing, if you're using a fly rod, you're not going to be fishing in deep water. And the rockfish will come into water 12, 15, 18 inches deep all night long because they feel safe. If you stick it out and don't run into anything, you can get really good catches of fish at night. And you'll be all by yourself. Yeah.
Have you had much success fly fishing from the dock or from the shore?
I have. It depends on where it is. You got to have the right conditions. Usually it's got to be a high tide condition because they're coming into shallow water. They don't feel really confident unless they've got some room under their belly. You have to have moving water. The tide's got to be moving. You got to have proper depth. The moon's got to be low. If you got a bright moon, full moon, stay home. I know a lot of people think that a full moon condition is really good. I've always found exactly the opposite. I never catch it. You know, one exception is Spanish mackerel, but we'll get into that later. Points, any point with current going by, good place to fish fly rod. Again, times are critical, early, late, all night. Coves, not so much. They will go into coves, but not generally. They'll go into they'll cruise the cove, but they very rarely hold anywhere in there. They'll cruise the cove, they'll hold on a point. And again, you're not going to want anything deep. Now you can fish high density sinking lines. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but they're specially designed for, you can go down to 20, 25 feet. But it's a stunt. I mean, everything is depending on sinking that fly down deep, where as if you've got a spinning rod with a half-ounce bait, it's gonna be down there with a flick of your wrist. It's just if you're so dedicated to doing it on a fly rod, you can do it, and you can catch big fish. One of the best fisheries, which no longer exists, was Kent Narrows Bridge. After dark, at Kent Narrows Bridge, they had these bright sodium lights shining down to illuminate the bridge, and they created a shadow line, a definite shadow line in a bright spot underneath it. And I've been out there many nights when the water from shoreline to shoreline was white with froth of feeding fish, because the whole eastern bay was feeding through there to the Chester River and back again. It was like a rich smorgasbord. But some people, recreational anglers, discovered it in the last couple of years, and it was illegal to keep some of the fish that were, but they showed up so much, and I guess it was impossible to arrest them all for doing something, and they had to shut the fishery. They changed the lights. They changed the lights and put no fishing signs up there. But for a while, it was phenomenal. And it may be that way again when time goes on and something else was developed. But fishing at night, cruising the docks at night, docks with lights. When you've got moving water, usually a higher form, usually a high tide phases, but not always. Depends on the depth of the water where you're fishing. But bright dock lights and fly rod. A fly rod is really good to use on the docks at night because you know how much line you've got out. If you're fishing a spinning rod or a casting rod, half the time you're going to be overthrowing your target. You're going to be following the dock, following boats. It's a nightmare. You can't do it. But with a fly rod, you know exactly how much line you've got out there. And there are fish, rockfish, sea trout will hang out there, redfish will hang out there if they're in the area. And what you want to do is you don't want to fish right under the lights because the better fish stay back. And you're going to fish the edges. Laying a fly in there, twitching it back, you can have some phenomenal evenings fishing the lights. The people who own the docks know this, and if they see you out there, they'll turn the lights off. Anyway, but you can produce a lot of fish. I've had many fish in the 30s go in. It's a great feeling. Having fish that big. I've had them tow my boat halfway up the bay. I had a small boat. Anyway, so that's good. Again, these are mostly in the tributaries, although docks on the bay, Proctor, the main stem of the bay, docks and piers on the main stem of the bay with lights, can draw them anytime. Usually it's after dark, before sunup. After dark, before sunup, they'll be there. Noise is paramount. If you make a noise, if you drop something on the floor, if you drop your anchor, if you clunk your outboard, they're going to be gone. They are very, very sensitive to noise. Got to be very quiet. One time I was fishing the Magothy, and I found a school of gray trout, weak fish, spotted sea trout. I found a school of them, and I drift up to that school and cast in there. Every 2 or 3 casts, I'd get one, 23, 24 inches. Incredible. I was so happy. And I was keeping them to eat. And so when I catch one I was going to keep, I'd whack it on the head with a flashlight, throw it in my cooler. That worked for 3 or 4 fish. And one of the times that I did that, I didn't hit them hard enough. I threw it in there, and I started drifting back to the school, and the one came back to life and started thrashing. And I shut them down as quickly as I could. It was too late, they were gone. They never came back that week. So they do have a memory. You can stop me at any time and ask any kind of question you want. We're good?
What, for those, what size, weight or inches?
Usually they're about 3/4 of an ounce, not that big.
Okay.
And the rule is, what's as close as you can come to the common bait available in that water. If it's in the fall and the menhaden are running and they're 14 inches, you want something big. Generally speaking, that's the kind of stuff we're eating. Although I have had incidents where we were catching, we'd be catching from time to time 21, 22 inch rockfish, but it was really slow. But I threw an 8 or 9 inch plug just to see if there were any big fish nearby. There weren't any big fish nearby, but those fish, those 20 inch fish, wanted that bigger bait. It was phenomenal, but it was damn near half their size, you know, and still, that's the one we bagged. If you fish long enough, you're going to find out anything's possible. One of the questions I often get asked is, when is the best time to fish? And the answer is always the same, whenever you can. Yeah.
I'm trying to file away the massive amount of information that's coming at me. I just want to simplify something. Let's say you want to go out to Poplar Island and it's before first light. Previously you mentioned if it's daylight, fishing topwater is a waste of time. So as a general rule, is it fair to say if you're going to go out and fish an area like that to, if you're fishing before sunlight, to use topwater lures and then once the sun comes up to hit the bottom and bounce them off the bottom?
No, when the sun, if you're fishing around Poplar Island and you're catching fish, you do that until they stop biting.
Okay.
Okay. Sometimes, if you're on a lively bunch of fish, they'll bite until 9, 10 o'clock. But if they don't, they've gone down. So, fish for them as long as they're biting. When they stop, start going to different depths, see where they are. Another thing too is if you're hitting topwater poppers and they slow down or stop, switch to something just underwater that has a lot of action. They want something a little different, you don't know quite what it is. Whatever it is you have, you don't want. Try something out. Yeah.
So the surface baits you have there, are they actually on the surface, or are they 6 inches deep, or are they
On the surface.
splashing on the surface?
Splashing on the surface.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, these are, this is a mirror lure, I believe. These two are mirror lures. That one is also a mirror lure. I have no idea. But whenever you get a catalog of baits, you'll see those. That's a separate category, the ones with the spinners. Anything else? Okay, so we're getting into fall, okay? We're in the middle of summer. The panfish come into the bay. June, the spot and the croaker start moving in. They're coming from the Atlantic. Great fish for kids. You're going to drift through areas, usually deep holes or high humps. Bounce your bait across the bottom. Below the Bay Bridge is a great spot. Gully's Lump, great spot. And kids can catch fish that will wrench their wrists off. Some years, all day long. Sometimes they're hard, but again, you're going to fish worms on the number 4 hook. They have smallmouths, they all have smallmouths. Number 4 hook, 2 ounces of lead. bounced on the bottom, drift with the tide. You can anchor. I wouldn't recommend it because if the bite goes dead, you've got to move. You've got to pick up the anchor and move. That may not do any good, but if you're always drifting, you should always be able to find fish. And learn to find your fish, learn to use your fish finder. Almost every boat has a fish finder on it now. Get used to using it. Because if you see fish on the bottom, you may not be able to catch them. But if you're not seeing anything, you're not going to catch anything, no matter how good you are. And if you don't have a fish finder, you've got a new boat, the best fish finder to get for your boat is whichever fish finder your buddy has, because he can show you how to use it. And you can be sure he's going to tell you the right thing, because you're going to see him again. And another point is that build yourself up a network, because you really have to fish 2 or 3 times a week to stay in touch with the bay. The people who catch the most fish the most. And if you can't fish the most, but know somebody who does, the information you get is going to be worth any amount of technique or strategy that you might evolve. You got to have knowledge of what's biting and where it's biting and how it's biting. So that kind of information is priceless. If you're fishing from shore, talk to the people there. They'll usually tell you what's going on. But they won't tell you when it gets better or when it gets worse. But if you've got their telephone number, you can find out. And don't make sure it's a two-way street. Pick a few people out whose opinion you value and tell them when they're doing well, and they'll always return the favor. But if you've got a list of numbers to call, it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of empty fishing. Any more? Okay, we're in the summertime. It's going to be, now at one point, live lining was one of the best ways to catch.
Do you want me to take that mic off so you can lose the
I
jacket?
didn't think I'd get more of them. Okay. One of the surest ways to catch trophy-sized rockfish was live lining. This, by the way, is Jamie Avedon. He's one of the best fishermen on the bay. And he charters out of Annapolis. If you can get in touch with him, you just Google him. He is 100% reliable. Not only for where the fish are, but what you should be doing at that time. I'm sure that's with you. Okay, so we're fishing for the white perch, and we're fishing for white perch and Norfolk spot and hardhead. Norfolk spot, that's white perch. Okay, Norfolk spot, great bait. When there were a lot of rock fishing here, a spot hooked just in front of the dorsal fin and letting them swim down along any of the big bridge structures against any rocky structure along piers, docks. If there was a big rockfish there, he was going to eat that fish. Great way to catch them. Of course, now there's just not enough rock. Got to leave them alone for a while until they can come back. But keep that in your quiver, because it'll become important, hopefully within some time in the near future. Same goes for hardhead. Thing is the minimum size to keep a hardhead is 9 inches. Now, a lot of rockfish will eat a 9-inch hardhead, but when you need to catch a minimum size hardhead, they're all over a foot long. A foot's a little bit too big for the average rockfish to swallow, but maybe not. You know, you can always take a chance. And then we're into late summer. When the temperature starts to drop, the spot and the croakers start to get nervous, and it's time for them to pull out and go back to the ocean. They live in the ocean, they spawn in the ocean, they come out in the summer to feed up in our Chesapeake Bay is a big nursery. Just about everything they can get up here will get up here, and the shallow water fish, fish in shallow water are all small, just about the right size to eat. So they provide sustenance for a large number of fish. The drum and the spot have to get out of the bay when it gets cold. Usually they make it. One year they didn't. The weather changed precipitously week after week, and we had a sudden drop in temperature before we usually do, and hundreds of thousands of spot died from the cold weather. The shores were littered with them, and it took them about 3 or 4. They're still coming back from that, but that's the way it goes sometimes. But they are decent eating. Croaker's better. And the croaker are particularly powerful fish. We can pull like crazy. I remember I took them when my kids were about 7 or 8. I took them out. We had a particularly good run of sizable croaker. Some of them were 12, 13, 14 years old. And we were catching one fish after another. And finally they told me they had to quit because their wrists hurt too much. But they can get big, and they are good fish. Their flesh is white. It's a little soft. Some people like that, some don't. But they're always good, and the smaller fish are great bait. What do we got? White perch, big white perch. Big white perch are hard to find. The key to finding big white perch is to find out where the commercial nets aren't. Because the commercial fishermen fish gill nets, which are good at harvesting larger fish and leaving the smaller ones alone, which is, from a fish management standpoint, is a great thing, but from a sporting standpoint, means you get the leftovers don't amount to much. But if you look around any area where it looks like it would be hard for a commercial fisherman to lay 200 yards of gill net, maybe just a spot to try for white perch. Any place where there's a lot of rocky jetties that would otherwise follow their nets might be a good place to try. They like rock jetties, they like piers, they like docks, they like especially the ruins of old docks. You see any old docks that have fallen under rule? Well, those spinnerbaits, those small spinnerbaits, are excellent. They have come by a couple of different names. Super rooster tails is one. I can't, try to think of the other ones. But you know what they look like. They're all in the same place in all of the sports stores, so they're about $4 a piece. It can get expensive because the better places, you lose a lot of them because they get snagged in the clutter of the structure. But if you're not losing them, you're not fishing in the right place, so it's a double-edged sword. Again, perch are great, one of my favorites. Fresh water, you're dealing with largemouth bass and bluegills, sunfish, which are phenomenal fish. There's an endless number of impoundments in Maryland. Inlets that are blocked up, just plain small lakes, small ponds. One of the most enjoyable, if you like using a fly rod, most enjoyable fish on a fly rod is a bluegill on a popper. Popper's small, size number 10, especially in the spring when the fish go on the beds, cast it out, pop them back. You can always count on the bluegill to give you a battle and never refuse. Also during early summer, the snakeheads come off their spawning beds. It's not generally known, but snakeheads rear their young. They spawn right about now for the next month or two, and they stay around the eggs until they hatch, and then they corral the small fish. I believe they can blow bubbles to hold them into a certain area, and they guard those fish until they're big enough to go off on their own. And all that time, they will not eat. So people think they don't like to bite. It's not that. It's just they're focusing on raising their young. They'll start biting again in the summertime when those little fish disperse. The best bait to use, the best one I found, live minnow, always great. Live small white perch. You can keep a tiny white perch. There's no minimum size of them. Under a bar, they'll eat those, and they love frogs. If you've got an artificial frog and you've got a place you can't fish because the vegetation's so thick, you can fish a surface frog, and they will come to it and eat it. You don't have to do much. As a matter of fact, sometimes you just have to sit there and twitch it every now and then. If your nerves can take it, because sooner or later, one of those will come along and smash it. And they are not shy creatures. They'll really hit it. That guy, Jamie. Oh, that's not Jamie, that's the next. Or that one there. They'll take a snakehead. There are a lot of snakeheads are getting up into 20 pounds now. So they're fantastic. And another fish that's coming into its own is the blue catfish. They've been spawning on, well, first of all, earlier in the spring, they were feeding on the spawning rockfish. They ate the roe, they would follow the rock and the white perch and the yellow perch up into the spawning grounds and eat the smaller ones and get the roe from the bigger ones. And they stayed up in there until the spawn was over. And now they're coming down. I had my best springs generally right in trophy season. You just fish the same way you do for, the way I did it that time. trophy rockfish was, I would use a lot of chum, because you've got these big fish that are moving fast. You can never tell when you're gonna get their attention or not. I'd have a chum bag on the bottom with a heavy weight on it, and a chum bag just over the stern on top, because the rockfish cruising up from the ocean to spawn are usually in the top 15 feet of the water level. So when they're coming up, I've got that high bag, and that bag will get their attention. And then I've got a bag down low, because usually when a rockfish is going to eat, particularly a big one, he's going to go down. And so I would have a bag of chum down low, and I did it very well. I had better than 50% success ratio for trophy rock. It means, half the time I would get fish over 36 inches, which is a great fish on my tackle. That's what you're using when you're fishing on a chum slip. And because it was about the same time as the rockfish coming in and going out, there's a good chance of picking up a big blue cat. Now, one of the things that people don't pay much attention to, I don't think, but blue cats get over 100 pounds. And I had a couple of 35 and 40 pounders. And believe me, you can't tell for a while whether it's a rockfish or a blue cat, but they can give a mighty battle, and they all eat well. The flesh is good. But when they finish following the rockfish around in the spring, in the spawning grounds, I don't know where they go. Because I haven't been able to catch them very reliably for a month or two after that. They may just move up into the estuaries, I don't know. That's the blue cat. Now the channel cats will move up into the estuaries and hang out the same place the white perch do, around the jetties, around the piers, around the down trees. And I've caught many a channel cat on spinnerbait that I was trying to catch white perch on. And believe me, for a while you always think you've got a world record white perch. For 5-10 minutes sometimes, and then it dawns on you. And it's not bad news, because they do eat fairly well, not quite as good as the blue cats. But they're definitely edible, and they're easy to clean, and they give a mighty battle. And it's not a good idea to throw them back, because there's too many of them already. The running joke a while ago was, why is there so many blue cats and channel cats and snakeheads in the bay? And somebody said it's because it's the only fish that DNR hasn't tried to help. I didn't say that. Okay, so there's that. Flatheads. I have not caught a flathead. Jamie knows where to get them. I think they're up in Chester, but they are.
Sorry, it's cell phone interference.
It happens, cell phones over our frequency.
Flatheads are the hardest fighting of all the catfish. They're the best eating, and they're the hardest to find. And they're the equal of a blue cat in size. They do get to 100 pounds and over. I haven't gotten anything that big.
What do you think the best way to cook a blue cat is?
The way I do it is I clean them, and I hate to admit it, but the best way to clean a catfish is with an electric fishing knife. And I just come down behind their head, about a third of their body. Come right down along the spine, flip it over, and put the edge of the electric fishing knife against fillet down to the skin, and it comes out. It used to take me half an hour to clean a catfish because I believe the stick about, you gotta put a nail in his head to get him to stay still, and because they are slimy, there's no scales. But get them out that way, lay them down, rinse them off, get them clean, and then cut it into chunk size, not that thick, however big it is. Breadcrumbs, panko, and peanut oil, 400 degrees. Excellent, excellent. I imagine you could do southern fried catfishes. There's a million recipes out there, and I'm sure they work. Anything quick and neat is the thing I go for, because the quicker you cook them and the crispier the coating is, the better they taste. Anything else? What are we talking about? Snakeheads, catfish, flatheads. If you want to look a lot, if you want to research catfish, there are two crazy catfishermen on YouTube. Now, it's not fishing in the bay, but the techniques and the strategies for finding them are there, and you can find them. And these guys fish a lot of catfish. I mean, I watch them just to see how things are going for them, but they do catch a lot of big catfish. They don't talk a lot about how they find them, but they do let them all go, and said that, when they were younger, they used to keep them until they realized you can wear out a spot, you can catch too many fish. And they're finding out, that's one of the things that DNR used to think, is that you just can't exhaust the bay. There's just too many fish here to do it. But you can. You can wear out the white perch if you're not careful. I mean, if you're targeting 12-inch rock on white perch, it can take 10, 15 years to produce a 12-inch white perch. And if you hit a spot too many times and take those big fish, I remember the hard way how I found a real honey hole. And I just worked that place, and there was a lot of big fish in it. And I kept going back and going back and going back, until finally the fishing wasn't any good anymore. I thought, well, I'll have to rest it. And I did, because I came back. Now, I don't know whether they have good memories, or the place changed in the meantime, but it was like, it's not endless. Okay, we're in the fall. Yeah.
Did I read somewhere that snakeheads you don't put back, that they're trying to catch lots of them?
Oh, yeah, they're definitely trying to get, they're playing. Snakeheads are not native to the Chesapeake. Blue cats aren't native to, blue cats started out in Mississippi. Everybody loved them so much they took them everywhere. But they eat everything. They did a study, and they figured out, I don't know how they did the study, but they figured out in the James River, where Virginia released a bunch of blue cats in the James River for sporting purposes, claiming that they would never migrate into the bay. And of course, that's just where they went. They ate 40 pounds of, the average blue cat was eating 40 pounds of blue crab a season. That's what
Jeez.
So I heard you don't want to eat the really big ones because of the blue cats. They said the smaller ones are the better eating. I think it's, they say if you're going to eat a blue cat, it should be 20 or under. It's a stupid question, but obviously we don't want these blue cats. So if you do catch a big one that you don't want, you just cut the head off and throw it over?
It'd be quite a job to cut the head off a big blue cat.
All right, well, what do you have? You just kill it and throw it back?
pluck a couple of its gill plates out. They don't tell anybody.
Well, no, they
It's not
said,
illegal.
no, they said you're supposed to kill every blue cat now. They don't want you to put any blue cat back
People that
alive.
don't fish don't understand. It's just being cruel. Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't hesitate to eat a big one. Just cut it into small pieces.
You know what, it might have been mercury. Would that maybe that be, they were worried about a mercury level in a blue cat that was bigger?
I don't believe anything they publish.
Okay. I gotcha.
Okay. There is one catfish that's native. It's called a white catfish. It looks just like a blue catfish, but it's smaller. I can't tell the difference. So. Might be the tail. The tail is notched on the white catfish, but it's the only catfish native to America. I mean, to America. I think they're all going to be here with us forever. Might as well make the best of it. Anything else? Okay, so we're, stingrays. Nobody likes a stingray because for the first 10 minutes you think you've hooked the largest striped bass in the bay. I remember one time as I was using the fish net because I was running out of bait. I threw it out there and it wasn't there 5 minutes. I got a damn stingray. And I cinched him up and sure enough, it ran off to the side like stingrays do, got behind the boat and came up and I swore I saw tip of a wing come out of the water. Oh, God. And I had him on, I'm trying to get him close. He has a lot of line up. I don't want to cut my lines because I had braided line, which is expensive, or was expensive. And I'm pulling this guy, and I just get him to the point where I thought I could cut the line, and he take off again. This went on again, I had him on for half an hour. And finally, I got him close enough. I thought I had him close enough, and I just grabbed the line, and I started pulling him in, and I started pulling him in. And I had a big, and he was further away than I thought he was, so I had a big pile of line between my legs, pulling him in. And finally, he broke water behind me, and I looked. His eye was that big. It was the biggest striped bass I've ever had. And I had a pile of line. I went, oh my God, and he looked at me and took me right into the motor and cut me off. Oh. And I thought, well, that's a hard lesson. Okay, so there's those. They show up in the bay in the spring, and they spawn up here. They have their babies alive. The babies are cute. They are a nuisance, but they're just doing the best they can too. They'll lay on the surface. They lay on the surface to sleep. You got to be careful because you can see them once in a while. One night I was fishing for rockfish, middle of the night, quiet, could hear a leaf drop in the water. And I'm drifting down the river, looking around and time for a cigarette. Cigarettes taste twice as good on the water. And you know you can't smoke very much anymore. I just fired up that cigarette and it was so quiet. And all of a sudden it sounded like somebody dropped a Volkswagen next to the boat. And over and over again. It just scared the living hell out of me. I had no idea what it was. It took a while to realize it was a school of stingrays gone to sleep on the surface, and I drifted right into the middle of them, and they started to wake up. They sensed me and they panicked. But certainly got my adrenaline going. Yeah, fishing at night can be exciting. I recommend it highly. The only rules for fishing at night is never fish anywhere you haven't fished before. If you're not familiar with the water, do not go there at night. And when you go there during the daytime, pay attention to your fish finder, because you can't tell anything out there. You're gonna lose all your landmarks. It'll be tough to figure out where you are, so be able to make sure your fish finder tells you the spots you wanna be. And those are, changes in depth and so on, places you caught fish. Yeah,
In the bay, if there are dolphins around, so you just pack up and go home?
yeah. Unless you wanna take a picture.
Right, exactly.
When they come through, that's it, they're the best fishermen around. You might not even compete, you might as well not compete with them. They've gotten so common now, I guess it's part of global warming. The bay's been warming up for 1,000 years, so it's not anything shocking, but it's changed the patterns of everything. There are fish, people are catching black sea bass at the Big Bridge. They're catching, God, I can't even think of it now. Well, anyway, the saltwater fish from down south are moving up here, and they're starting to come into the bay. That's one of the things that worries me, is that back in 1995, we had a lot of bluefish in the bay, big bluefish. And there were no, at the same time, there were no striped bass. And according to the records, we've never had much of a population of striped bass when the bluefish were in house. But the thing is that we don't have any bluefish, but we got a lot of blue catfish. Now, whether they're going to take over part of the ecological structure that the striper once had and make it more difficult for the striper to come back is a question that we don't know the answer to. So we'll see. I suspect if we're serious about bringing the stripers back, that they'll come back, maybe not in the numbers that we were accustomed to before. A couple of seasons ago were the best I've ever seen. But we'll see. Bluefish are great sport fish. But they don't eat well, especially big ones, and especially after they're 12 hours old. A small bluefish, 18 inches, on a barbecue grill is fantastic. Any bigger, forget it. If you've got a bluefish overnight, forget it. If you've frozen them, the cats won't even eat it. I don't know what the commercials do with them all. They must sell them for pet food, but they are awesome to fight. They have full energy, and both the striped bass and the bluefish in the ocean is twice the fish that they are in the bay. They are much stronger, much more resilient, because their natural environment is saltwater. They get their energy from that. When rockfish are young and bluefish are young, it doesn't make much difference. But once they get big, the big guys are awesome in the saltwater, in blue water. Yeah.
One question. You commented earlier about knocking out a fish so that it wouldn't disturb the other fish around. We've been with a couple people now that use rum to kill a fish. They just squirt it on the gills, kills them instantly.
Really?
Just recently, or this past fall, I was sailing.
Rum?
Rum.
Rum. Bad rum.
Yeah.
Don't use the good stuff.
Oh.
That's for you.
Don't use that which you cannot drink will kill a fish.
Oh.
So I caught a yellowtail tuna and two
What tuna do?
yellowfin tuna out in the ocean. 2 shots of rum in the gills, stop them instantly.
Right.
So just
What a good thing to do.
it just stops the fish.
Euthanasia.
So I had a question. As a fisher person on the bay, you've mentioned several times this has been fished out. They'll come back maybe, we hope. What are the obligations of the recreational fisher person to conservation efforts on the bay?
Don't catch too many fish of the same kind in the same place. If you're not gonna eat them that night or the next night, turn them loose. That basically is it. Minimize your take for the time being. And let your political leaders know that you're paying attention to what they're doing, because it's their fault that everything's happening like this. Department of Natural Resources has scientists that know what's going on. They just can't get the authority to do what they want to do.
I wanted to add to that, if you're catching and releasing, good handling practices, keeping the fish out of water as little amount as you possibly can, if you take it out of water at all. When you're supporting the fish and taking a picture, so larger fish, hold it by the stomach and support it. Don't grab it like a bass, like a freshwater bass, and hold it by the mouth. Hold it really well so it doesn't flop around, and just get it back in the water as quick as possible.
I mirror that. If you can do it, just don't take them out of the water. Just grab that hook and twist it out. That would be the least. And another thing is that the warmer it is, the less you want to tempt any kind of bigger fish. Their mortality rate skyrockets the warmer it gets. During the wintertime, they're really tough. You can do just about anything with the fine. Their mortality rate is like less than 5%, but during the winter months. But as soon as it gets hot, well, just imagine you're in a steam bath and you can't breathe. That's what they have to deal with. And they think they're going to die. If you've got it in the boat. We're just going to have to be careful for the next few years until things get rosier. Assuming they get rosier. But we can hope. Anything else? Oh, Spanish mackerel. Yeah, that is a November, December fish. In the main stem of the bay, they run, nowadays they run all the way to Baltimore Harbor. It used to be the mid-bay below. They run all the way up to Baltimore Harbor. Trawlers get them, and that can be fairly exciting because you've got to, you're chasing birds. So you can hold your baits in and run to near where you're seeing the bird action, put your lines overboard, skirt the edges of the breaking fish, and 6 to 10 knots. You're really moving fast for these fish. They won't take anything that's slow because they're moving so fast. And they're delicious. They're really good. One of the few mackerels that really taste good up in the bay. And that is not an uncommon size like that. Used to be there. We wouldn't get many of the larger ones. But they'll take bucktails, they'll take Castmasters, all kinds of spoons. Some of the spoons, particularly spoons designed for slower speeds, won't work for these because it'll start spinning. And once the spoon's spinning around, it's a natural movement, so they won't take them. But any kind of spoon that's meant to be thrown at higher speeds will take them. You can throw baits at them, sting silvers, things like that, and move them fast and they'll take them. They're strong fish, and they're common from Florida all the way up here. So, and they're delicious. Baked with thinly sliced lemons on them. They're very, very good. I don't know, I think they have to be 14
They've been in the bay much earlier than November the past couple of years.
What's that?
They've been in the bay much earlier than November the past couple of years.
Have they?
Usually August.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good.
As soon as they're ahead of the bluefish.
Oh, I forgot to give you, well, I probably shouldn't tell you, but, my favorite recipe for rockfish. I don't know if you're familiar with ceviche. Yeah, rockfish and white perch. Makes incredibly delicious ceviche. I just cut it into ceviche-sized pieces. Put it in a bowl, dose it with olive oil and salt. Mix it up a little bit. Minced garlic, cilantro, and put that in there, mix it up, and then very thinly sliced onions. Move that into the mix, enough onions so that it covers them, and then squeeze fresh limes and fresh lemons, half of each. 4 limes, 4 lemons, and pour it over that. Massage it a little bit, make sure everything is touched with that juice. Put it in the refrigerator for 2 hours, 3 hours, overnight. It's delicious on crackers. It is delicious. I had to hide it from my kids. I had to hide the bowl from my kids because by the time I thought it was ready, it was all gone. But it's got this consistency of, it's got the lime juice, the lemon juice, cooks it actually. And it has the tooth density of a tender shrimp. And it's just delicious. Okay, and you can do that with, I don't know if you can do it with blue cat or not, but I tried. Okay. Oh, all right. I don't have, do I have a website?
Yes, it's up there.
Apparently you do.
It's her fault.
Say thank you.
www.howtocatchfish.shop.
And like I said, the book isn't really about how to catch fish. It's like 50 essays on how I caught a particular fish at a particular time, and how much fun it was. I recommend fishing as the principal form of entertainment for anyone that is contemplating the activity.
Just a quick question about your speech recipe. You said half, so is it 2 lemons, 2 limes, cut in half, and much of that goes into it, or was it 4 lemons, 4 limes?
I squeeze 4 lemons, squeeze 4 lemons, look in the glass, squeeze 4 limes, and make sure that the volume is the same, and then dump it.
Oh, it's equal parts. Quick question for you. Without giving away your favorite spot to catch snakeheads, where would be an area that you could pursue those fish?
The best area I know of is the Blackwater River, up in, I guess it's the middle of the bay, on the eastern shore. And you can find them just about anywhere there's a lot of vegetation.
What time you said in the summer they start to bite, what time is that around here? Like July-ish time frame?
Oh, no.
Early?
Yeah. I was gonna say, whenever they start to bite is whenever they start to bite.
Well, I've been trying for years, like I got lucky and caught one once, and 4 years I had yet to catch another one. I think I caught it in April.
How are you fishing for it?
I was fishing for bass and white perch and yellow perch. In April time frame, using little spare jigs or just,
You gotta fish for snakeheads. You gotta use something.
Yeah, so I caught the one by accident, and ever since then, I've been trying to fish for 4 snakeheads, and I have not caught them.
You gotta use a substantial bait.
Yeah.
A big frog, big plastic frog.
I have those, I just don't catch them. But I've gone into June and July, and it gets kind of hot sometimes.
That's when, yeah.
Yeah.
Are they particularly active, like at dusk and at night and in the early morning?
Yeah, yeah, they,
So that might be a better time.
it might be, the big fish for these days is the guys going out with bow and arrows.
At night with all the lights on.
At night with all the lights on. Yeah, when I was younger, that would probably appeal to me. I was more bloodthirsty then. I would do it at night, with a frog. I mean, they have a tremendous appetite for frogs. They're not, a big one is not going to go after anything that's not worth its time. And like I said, we're getting 20 pounds. Unfortunately, I just seen that, I haven't experienced that myself. I'd look online and see, put in Chesapeake Bay snakeheads, see there's a lot of stuff out there.
What people recommend frog baits, and I've tried to.
Pardon me?
What people recommend frog baits.
Oh, yeah. In some areas, they've wiped out frogs.
Yeah. Maybe that's the problem.
It's not gonna last forever.
Yeah.
It never does, but it's really good. But, I chase it that way. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that would be my approach, and I would say that it's a little early for snakeheads right now, and it can be done, but a lot of people think they will be because they're guarding the schools of fingerlings. And the same is true for catfish. Catfish will hang out near the fingerlings and do away with intruders, which makes them difficult to catch and makes them very prolific.
Sure, thank you.
Is that it?
Any questions?